Well, I have been a homeschool father for 12 years, and I'll tell you that I haven't regretted it for one moment. And I encourage you, if you're just getting ready to start homeschooling, it's a great experience, and you won't regret it. It's been a great educational experience for not only our son Josh, but also for us, because whenever you start to homeschool, you got to realize it's not just going to be the kids going to school, it's everybody. The whole family goes to school, and we all learn together. Plus, it has caused our family to grow really close together, this homeschool experience. So I encourage you, especially if you're getting ready to start homeschooling. First question I get asked every time I do a seminar about the subjects of computer and internet and homeschool is what computer to buy. There's all kinds of computers out there, as you know, but my answer always is this, that the experts agree that the best kind of computer to buy is the one that comes on the market about 2 weeks after you purchase some other computer. Isn't that right? So we'll just we'll settle that question right off the bat, and we'll get right into the main points of my seminar. We're going to talk about educational software and the internet as it relates to preschool and through third grade. We have a limited time, and also we don't want to date the video, so in this seminar I'm not going to recommend any specific software, websites, or resources. But I will let you know that we are available. You can call us or email us with any questions about any specific information about these sorts of things that you may need. I will, however, try to establish a basic philosophy today, and I hope you'll follow it as you try to implement this computer technology in your homeschool program. My message is very simple. It's this: the computer is a great tool for teaching and educating your children when it's used with discretion. Now, discretion is my key word here today. And what do I mean by that? Have you been in a computer store lately and walked down the educational software aisle? The last time I was in a store like that and found myself in the educational aisle, I felt like I was in the middle of a Saturday morning cartoon festival. I don't know if you've been to a computer store and seen a lot of the materials that are out there, but even Batman and Barbie have their own educational software now. A lot of these manufacturers today that are manufacturing educational software, they see a great market, and most of them are motivated by profit. And they know just how to manipulate children and parents when it comes to buying all of this educational software. It's like the old fast food restaurant scheme. You know, if you put a clown in it and some toys, well, that's going to motivate your kids to force you to come buy those hamburgers. And it doesn't matter if the hamburgers are lousy. I mean, we got a clown and we got toys. So that's the ploy they use in a lot of respects. And I've critiqued a lot of software, and I tell you, there's a lot of junk out there. There's some good stuff, but there's a lot of junk as well. When I say discretion in this sense, I mean this: that when we purchase educational software, we want to be looking for wholesomeness and educational value and not entertainment value. When you're thinking about buying a particular piece of software, don't look at the colorful box and say, gosh, will my kid get a kick out of this? Think about instead, how can I implement this into my curriculum in my homeschool? Use a little bit of discretion. We're going to talk more about this later as we discuss different types of educational software. Now, when it comes to the internet, it's obvious that you definitely need discretion. The internet is not always a safe place to be. And we're going to discuss this too as we discuss the different types of websites. We're also going to explore some of the safety issues when it comes to the internet. Hopefully all this in the context of preschool through third grade. Okay, I want to talk to you about some of the disadvantages and the advantages of using educational software in your homeschool. Some of the advantages are, one, it helps alleviate the burden of teaching. Some of the software that's out there is very self-teaching, and it can help take off some of the burden of teaching. The only thing you have to watch out for is that it doesn't become a substitute teacher. Also, educational software can be very interactive. As your child responds to the software, it responds back to them, and that's a good assistant. Also, it's very visual and colorful. In many cases, it helps track your children's progress, keeping scores. Also, it can create interest in a boring subject. Maybe your child is bored with a certain subject, and you might be able to find a piece of software that'll help pique their interest, such, for instance, grammar. When we get around the 3rd or 4th grade, we've got to start thinking grammar. And I know grammar is not the most exciting subject that's out there for your child, and is not the most exciting subject for some parents as well. But there's some good pieces of software out there that can help cause you a little more interest in the subject of grammar for your children. Also, kids simply love the computer. Isn't that right? Kids just simply love the computer. Some of the disadvantages, though, that you have to watch out for when you're using educational software is that it's not healthy to put your kid in front of a computer all day long. Just not a healthy thing to do. You wouldn't put them in front of a television set all day long. You shouldn't put them in front of a computer all day long. We don't recommend that you use all your subjects on computer. It's not healthy. Also, you don't want to build this arcade mentality in your children. A lot of the software that we previewed is sort of a video arcade effect to it. And you don't want to build in them that, unless it's some kind of arcade video kind of experience, that it's not going to be fun. We don't want them to think that, unless you're shooting down aliens or bunny rabbits or singing songs about nouns and verbs, well, we're not going to learn because it's no fun. We need to remember that we're teaching our kids, too, that real education requires hard work and discipline. Also, one of the disadvantages are that sometimes with computer software, you find there's less interaction and bonding between the parent and the child. You don't, like I said before, you don't want your computer become a substitute teacher. It can be an assistant teacher, but not a substitute teacher. Remembering that your homeschool is supposed to be a relational experience as well as an educational experience. Another disadvantage of computer software can be that it takes away creativity. Computers can sometimes be like a TV. When you come home and you sit down and you turn on the television, most of the time you're just doing it to relax your brain, because the TV does everything for you, and you just sit there and watch and let it do the thinking for you. And sometimes a computer and computer software can be like that as well. Some software does too much for the child, leaving them less likely to develop their imagination and their creative thinking skills. I want to read something from an article I found in a magazine. It says this. It says, many child development experts argue that hands-on learning, manipulating physical objects such as building blocks and clay or constructing shop projects, greatly impacts a young child's brain via a variety of sensory pathways. Computers don't. Clicking a mouse and tapping a keyboard can't make up for body movements and the ability to feel, touch, manipulate, and build sensory awareness of relationships in the physical world. They also say that it's vital for younger children, preschool through 3rd grade, to get a broad-based education intellectually, emotionally, and in the 5 senses. They maintain that the physical world holds great learning potential. One study even claimed that an award-winning reading program, if used too frequently, actually caused students to have a 50% drop in creativity. They also suggest that the computer can indeed help learning, but they caution against putting all your eggs into one hard drive. This is about teaching youngsters that exploring what's on a 2-dimensional screen is more important than playing with real objects or sitting down to an attentive conversation with a friend, parent, or a teacher. So we need to be careful about some of the disadvantages, but at the same time, it's a great tool and there are a lot of advantages about using it. That's why I say when you're using computer software and the internet, use it with discretion, and it can be a great tool. When you're picking out software for your kids, it's real important to understand what types of software are out there. It'll help you when you're making your purchase. For instance, there's a type of software out there that we like to call ebooks or electronic books. And what this type of software does is it actually reads stories and books to your children and then enhances it with graphics and hot spots where they can click on and get different information. And these types of software are mainly found in the preschool through 3rd grade range. And they can be very handy if used with moderation. A lot of them will add additional information into the story that books wouldn't be able to, such as maybe relevant music or historical and cultural facts. A lot of these ebooks can have a way of reinforcing phonics skills and vocabulary building and things like that. But let me tell you too, on the other hand, there's nothing like a good book. I mean, there's nothing like mom or dad sitting down and actually reading the story to the child and allowing the child's imagination to work up all these things and to develop their critical thinking skills. So, again, using computer software is good when you use it with discretion. Another type of software, educational software you'll see out there is what we call learning games. These teach a range of facts or skills in one or more subjects using a game format. Now, kids love this type of educational software, sometimes too much. They can be good for reinforcing some of the subjects that you may be teaching, but many of this type of arcade game type software are not comprehensive in nature. They don't teach full course study. So they're really only good for supplemental. And sometimes they're good for maybe using it as a reward, to reward your child after they've finished, completed their studies. And some of these also have good drills in them. But again, I'll say on the other hand, you have to be careful and use discretion because you don't want your child developing this arcade mentality when it comes to education. We're talking education, not edutainment. Another type of software that you'll find out there is the Problem-Solving Adventure type software, where the focus is on thinking skills and problem solving. You know, those type where you'll build a city or you'll get on a trail and live like the historical people lived when they went out to California, or maybe you're a detective and you're trying to find the criminal, and in the meantime you're learning about geography. Those kinds of software, they're called Problem-Solving Adventure software. Now these are very good, this type of software is very good for analytical and critical thinking skills. Unfortunately, most of that type of software is for the older kids. You have to be careful too, because some of it is pretty hard to use and it can become real frustrating. But I rate that type of software as a good type of software to implement into your homeschool. Also, you have research and reference type software like encyclopedias and dictionaries and atlases, and these are great tools to use to bring into your homeschool experience. And again, they do have some for younger kids, but most of that type of software is for the older kids. There's another type of software that I like to call creativity and productivity type software, and I really like this type of software, especially for the younger kids. It's basically learning through creating and producing on your computer. There's a lot of learning that takes place in a creative environment. There's a lot of different programs, graphic art programs, craft programs, word processing and publishing programs that are made for youngsters, younger kids. And a lot of times these type of programs will not only help them learn to create and use their creative skills, but also help them to learn about the computer itself and how the computer works. And then also you can use this type of software to motivate a reluctant child. Like for instance, let's say you're trying to reinforce some writing skills. Well, you could do something like use a word processor or a publishing type thing to publish birthday cards for your relatives and incorporate their writing skills into writing the birthday cards for all the family. And you can use creativity type software in a lot of different ways, and it's a great tool. There's also another kind of software I like to call comprehensive full course study. These are obviously software that teaches a complete course. There's not very much of it that's any good out there, but because most software is supplemental in nature, but you can find some comprehensive educational software. Now in the preschool through third grade, you'll see most of it in the area of like phonics or mathematics. But you can find some. There's some that are good. And again, I'll say if you want specific information about that, feel free to contact us. There's another type of software that a lot of people aren't aware of that really enhance a homeschool, and it's not so much for the kids as it is for parents. And that's what we call teaching tool type software. And this is the type of software that assists parents in running their homeschool, such as lesson planners type software, what we call form generators that actually allow you to generate different types of teaching and planning forms that you can print up, drill generators that allow you to create drills that you may want to use in a certain type of subject, internet navigators that take you and direct you to where all the good stuff is on the internet. And this is what we like to call teaching tool type software, and it's a great tool for parents to help assist them in teaching. Also, let's talk about the internet real quick. The internet can be a tremendous resource, not only for academics, for homeschooling in general. For instance, we have a lot of people that we see, homeschoolers, get on the internet to connect with other homeschoolers around the country, to share ideas and to minister to each other. And it can become a great source of communication and encouragement. There's a lot of internet websites that are dedicated to this type of thing, where they've been built so homeschoolers can get on and communicate with each other. Also, things like email. Email can be a great tool, believe it or not, in education. We used it to supplement our son's writing skills. We found out that he loved to communicate with other kids through email. So we took that opportunity to use email to enhance his writing skills. We would take the emails and we would look at them. We would, see how he did in his grammar and how his sentence structure. We used the email and implemented it into his grammar course. Also, just like educational software, it's good to have an understanding of the different types of websites that are out there. And I might say this too, remember, the internet is just to be used as a supplement to your teaching. For instance, there's a type of internet website that I like to call a working website. Now, this is an interactive type website where you can actually go on and interact and work right on the website. Like, for instance, there's a website where you can dissect a frog right on the internet. Without getting your hands dirty, you can dissect a frog right on the internet. And there's a lot of these type of interactive websites on the internet for young children. There's another type of internet website you might want to be aware of. It's called research websites. Now, the internet, again, is a tremendous tool for research. You can research just about any topic known to man on the internet. It's there. There are literally millions of research-type websites. And it's a great tool as well. In fact, it's almost like having a whole slew of free software. There's all kinds of encyclopedias and dictionaries and foreign dictionaries, all kinds of stuff on the internet. Another type of website to be aware of is what we call field trip websites. And this is a good thing to implement into your homeschool. For instance, you could go to Jerusalem, visit Jerusalem on the internet. There's a website called Virtual Jerusalem. You can go to different types of museums and actually walk around the museum and see the museum, the different things that are there, and get information on those things. This is a great way to use the internet for young kids, a great way. Without ever having to leave your home, you can go visit a museum. Also, another type of website is called a resource website. These are great for parents to be able to buy curriculum and get encouragement and ideas. And it's a good place to go get deals on new and used curriculum. It's called resource type curriculum, resource sites, commercial sites. Another type of website is what I call tutoring. There's a lot of tutoring, believe it or not, going on the internet. And this can be a tremendous asset for homeschoolers, especially. I've seen Saxon math being tutored on the internet, creative writing and other subjects. Realize too that this area of tutoring is a developing area. It's just going to grow and get bigger and bigger in the future. We go to a lot of teacher conventions and speak about computer technology, and we encourage some of the teachers, hey, this might be a good avenue if you want to start your own business. Yeah, there's a great market out there for tutoring on the internet. There's a lot of that going on. I'd also like to, real quick, address safety issues about the internet, because it's real important. Some of the tips I give people are things like, if you're going to use an internet service provider like AOL or any of these other kinds, make sure that the one that you use majors on protecting your family. There's a lot of good Christian organizations out there now that their main scope is to build an internet service provider to protect your family. Also, you might want to think about buying a filter program to put on your computer to help you filter out stuff. But I'll tell you, this is my number one tip. This is what I think will really help you, is don't allow your child to indiscriminately surf the net, especially when they're preschoolers and through third grade. Just don't allow it. We don't allow indiscriminate surfing of the net. And you might say, well, if we're not going to surf the net, how are we going to find where the stuff is, Well, let me tell you, how many of you know that surfing the net can be an arduous experience? I mean, long and drawn out, and you come across junk that you don't need to be seeing. Well, we've developed different kinds of programs that will put all the stuff that's on the internet on an actual program that keeps you focused where all of it is and has a built-in browser that doesn't allow your child to surf the net. That's a good type of software to buy. It's called an Internet Navigator. Excuse me. It's obvious that there's always a good chance that your children could happen across something that's inappropriate on the internet. You just drive down the street and see the billboards that are on our highways. It's awful. The media is just any type of media. We could be watching the Family Channel, and we keep our hand on that control even during the Family Channel because you never know when these commercials come up. But it's usually inevitable, but there are ways to protect your family from that sort of thing. A few other tips is don't keep your computer in your child's bedroom that's hooked to the internet behind a closed door. Also, be careful with email attachments. One of the biggest ways that pornographers come to your child is, believe it or not, through email. They'll type out a little innocent email, have a little attachment to it. Looks very innocent. Your child clicks on the attachment, it opens up, and there it is. It happens a lot. So in our house, our rule is we don't open up any attachments unless we know the people who send them. Also, we're very proactive if something does happen. It's a good idea to be proactive when something does happen, because inevitably it will. So if it does, what we do is we use it as a time to take something that happened bad and make something good out of it. We become proactive. We discuss it, and we also sometimes try to do something about it. Contact our internet service provider and say, hey, did you know this is going on? Also, you want to limit the time on the internet and on the computer just like you would the TV. That's a good tip right there. Once again, our message in this seminar is very simple. It's that there's a lot of great software out there, a lot of good supplemental software, a lot of good comprehensive software that you can use, and a lot of good tools. And it is a great tool to use in your homeschool. But use it with discretion. Have wisdom when you use it.
Time seems to fly. Oh, the years pass so quickly now, like sand through your fingers. You hold it once and then it's gone. The chill